Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're excited to dive into this new Gundam kit that just came out. Today we're going to be taking a look at the high-grade Cosmic Era number 258, Destiny Gundam Spec II, and Zeus Silhouette high-grade model kit from Bandai. The Destiny Gundam Spec II debuted from the Seed Freedom movie, and it acts as sort of a mid-movie upgrade for Shin Asuka. It's absolutely fantastic to see Shin get his redemption arc and for the Destiny Gundam to finally get its time to shine on screen. The Destiny Gundam Spec II looks more or less the same as the Spec I. The only difference here is the color. The whites have been swapped out for a nice gunship gray, and the blues and reds are quite desaturated, bringing the tone of the mobile suit to a more realistic color scheme. The Destiny Gundam here is the exact same as high-grade Cosmic Era 224, the Destiny Gundam. There's really no deviation from those runners. What you're really buying this kit for is the massive Zeus Silhouette pack. A massive flying mobile armor that's able to attach to the Destiny Gundam and greatly expand its mobility and defensive capabilities. This is essentially two kits in one. The Destiny Gundam here is made from 10 runners, 1 polycap runner, 10 molded colors, and 185 parts. That's quite a bit of color separation for just a high grade. The Zeus Silhouette is made from 193 pieces, spanning across 8 colors and 11 runners. The set also has 2 packed-in action-based 7s, and you're absolutely going to need them. That's 21 runners total to make the Destiny Gundam Spec II and the Zeus Silhouette, 23 if we include the clear parts and the 2 action-based 7s. There are quite a lot of parts here, and the Destiny Gundam and Zeus Silhouette have been meticulously recreated in 1/144 scale with fantastic color separation. This build took me a decent amount of time. There's a ton of parts here, which means lots of sanding and panel lines to fill. But thankfully Bandai's fantastic engineering made assembling the parts easy, intuitive, and straightforward. I really didn't have any steps that confused me, and everything flowed together nicely. For those of you that hate small parts, there's really only a few I can think of. Beyond the obvious ones such as the chin and face armor, those being the ball joint connector for the open hand, and the missile flaps for the Zeus missile pods. That's really it. Everything else is decently sized and easy to work with. While building this massive display of power, I did as much panel lining as I could on the runner with Tamiya Pore Type Black. This process works great on the Destiny, but really only okay with the Zeus Silhouette. The black on the charcoal gray does look nice, but you have to be careful which solvents you use to clean this up. I ended up using a melamine pad to restore this darker charcoal color, as the lighter fluid used for cleanup left some white swirls on the plastic. A lot of the panel lines on the Zeus aren't really chiseled either, so you're going to have to go over these with a panel liner pen if you wanted these panel lines filled in. Your work here isn't done either. After the Zeus has been assembled, there's some more lines to fill with your panel liner pen, and there's plenty of areas where armor coming together introduces a new panel line, and a pen is really the best way to fill these lines. Panel lining did take me a decent amount of time for this build, and I had to use 2 methods to do so. The panel lining really pays off and makes this kit look great. Just be sure to pace yourself if you're the type of person who hates panel lining. The seam lines on the Destiny Gundam and Zeus are both fantastic. On the Destiny, I can really only point out a few. The top of the torso near the shoulders, the top of the head, the bottom part of the backpack thruster, and the seam line down the larger part of the wings. The Zeus has seam lines, but using your trusty panel liner pen, we can fill these seam lines in as panel lines, and it makes the seam look natural. This greatly increases your panel lining time on this kit, but it's nice when you're able to easily deal with a seam line just with a pen. So this is a big win and a great way to have a nice looking build out of the box. I did have an issue here with the seam lines, and it's not the type of seam line where parts come together, but more a seam line where the mold comes together during the production process. This may seem like a nitpick, but please bear with me. The shin armor on the Destiny has a mold seam line across the whole shin armor. To delete this seam line, you'll have to sand these parts to make them smooth. This seam line really only exists because of the way Bandai planned the runner mold out. It may have been an honest mistake, but in an otherwise perfectly laid out set of parts, it is a little disappointing to see and deal with. Color accuracy on this kit is absolutely phenomenal for both the Destiny and the Zeus Silhouette. The sticker sheet here is really small, with the only color correcting stickers being on the main weapons for the Destiny. The red stickers go in the middle part of the sword and the railgun, and the yellow stickers are supposed to go on the shield. I left these yellow stickers off as I prefer the more gray look. I took the time on this build to paint these little missiles for the missile pod on the Zeus Silhouette pack, as it looked really naked with these open and all the missiles black. I would recommend any builder to do this, but it does take a lot of patience and a really steady hand with some paint and a precision brush. But it does look really good once it's completed. That's the only paint I used on this whole build. The nub marks on the Destiny are pretty good, but a little cumbersome on the Zeus. This kit was built using the 2-cut method with God Hand Ultimate Nippers for the second cut. All the nubs on the Destiny are placed well on the edges of the armor, so the second cut doesn't have much of a chance of scarring the plastic. The Zeus does have some sections that have thicker gates, so you'll need to maybe do a second or even third cut before doing your final cut. The nubs on the barrel of the Zeus is a little awkward and definitely benefits from sanding the nub down. I was able to get away with using my fingernail for sanding most of these nubs and blending them in with the plastic, but some of these nubs you'll definitely want to use sanders on. Primarily those on the Zeus barrel, a lot of the charcoal grayish parts on the Zeus, as well as some of the body pieces of the Zeus, as the nub is directly in the center of some of these pieces. The Zeus portion of the build you want to use your glass files and balancers on. This is such a huge eye-catching piece to display, it's going to catch a lot of attention, so make sure you take that extra time to smooth these out. With the build process out of the way, let's talk about articulation. And there's a lot to go over here with this build, so we'll start with the Destiny and go from there. The head of the Destiny is on a swivel in the neck and a ball joint in the head. The swivel in the neck is limited by the rear collar on the torso. The neck can only swivel backwards a little bit, and that's really it. Nearly all the head articulation is reliant on the ball joint. The head can look downwards about 50 degrees, but the head can only look upwards about 5 degrees, which is pretty weak by today's standards. The head can rotate around 360 degrees, but you'll have to swivel it upwards in some places to make it over the collar. Definitely better if only used to look left or right. We do have a 20-degree head tilt in both directions here, which is nice. The torso is on a swivel in the abdomen as well as in the upper torso, so we have a double ab crunch here that gets us a 40-degree crunch. There's also a ball joint in the waist that, if extended, gets us to a 50-degree crunch. Thankfully, there's no backwards lean in the abdomen swivels, only in the ball joint. This keeps the kit stable despite having such a big, heavy backpack. We really only get a 20-degree lean backwards here with the waist ball joint. Just like the backwards lean, the left and right lean is all contingent on the ball joint. This gets us a 20-degree lean in both left and right directions. Because of the skirt armor, the waist can only swivel left and right 20 degrees, which isn't great either. You can extend the ball joint, but it doesn't buy you a lot of rotation before it pops out of the socket, so it's really kind of a moot point. The waist here has some neat articulation. Like most high grades though, the rear skirt does not have any articulation at all. The side skirts have a rear swinging gimmick and can slide out of the way slightly. The side skirts themselves are on a hinge joint and a swivel, so you can swivel these directly out of the way for the leg articulation. And you can rotate them however you see fit, either forwards or backwards. The front skirts can open up almost 180 degrees, which is decent all things considered. With the front skirts opened, we can kick the leg forward about 90 degrees. The rear kick is about 15 degrees because that rear skirt doesn't move. The legs can swing out to the side 90 degrees with the front skirt out, giving us a perfect split. The swivel in the upper thigh allows us to rotate the leg around 360 degrees. The knee is double jointed, giving us a double bend and a decent leg compression here. The thruster on the back of the leg also has a slight swivel up and down. The shin armor is on a swivel joint that allows some up and down movement. This joint, however, is super duper loose. The feet themselves are on a ball joint in the foot and a swivel in the ankle, giving us some decent forward and backward articulation, as well as the typical ball joint swivel. Finally, there is a bend on the toe, but this only allows a downwards bend, which will be helpful for flying type poses. The legs here are pretty standard for a newer Bandai high grade. The arms are on a swivel in the torso, allowing a 30-degree forward swing. The end of this torso swivel is also on a swivel, allowing the Destiny to reach upwards. Couple this with the arm swing that's in the shoulder armor, and we can get a perfect T-pose out of this kit. The shoulder armor can swing almost vertically, and there's some quite impressive shoulders here. The shoulder armor directly connects to the end of these torso swivels through a ball joint, so it's able to swivel around in all directions. If it wasn't for these big wings, the arm would be able to swivel around 360 degrees, but these wings are drastically in the way, preventing that. The arm itself is on a swivel joint in the bicep, allowing the arms to rotate 360 degrees. The wrist is also on a swivel, allowing the area to give you a full 360-degree rotation as well. The elbow is double jointed, allowing for a full bicep curl, allowing the hand to touch the shoulder armor. A really nice bicep curl on this kit. Finally, the hand is on a ball joint, allowing the hand to swivel all around as well as rotate around the forearm 360 degrees. The backpack here has some articulation primarily in the wings. The wings can swivel forwards and backwards, with the backwards movement being more noticeable. The wings can also swivel outwards about 15 degrees. Finally, the wings can open outwards and upwards for the full spread. With the wings fully opened, you can get better use out of the forward and backward swivel. It's really hard to notice that articulation when the wings are closed. The backpack also houses 2 weapons on the back, the anti-ship sword and the rail cannon. These weapon holders are on 2 swivels. This allows the rail cannon to swivel downwards into a firing position and has a little handle on the side for the Destiny to hold while it fires. The other side houses the anti-ship sword. Both the sword and rail cannon have a stowed and deployed mode, so it's able to expand and lock into place. The anti-ship sword and the rail cannon are just 2 of Destiny's accessories. In addition to those, this kit comes packed with a high variety of other accessories. We have 2 open fist hands, which is used for holding the weapons. We have 2 open hands for Shin's bootleg shining finger attack. We have a pretty standard looking beam rifle here. We have 2 beam boomerangs on the Destiny, which are able to be stowed in the shoulder armor itself. For these beam boomerangs, we have 2 beam effect parts, and we have a blue beam effect part for the hand attack, as well as the beam shield on the forearm. The last accessory we get for the Destiny is the Wings of Light, which we clip onto the wings when they're in their open configuration. Like I said, this is a pretty stacked model kit with tons of accessories. The Zeus, on the other hand, comes with a handful of accessories as well. We have 2 open missile pod containers for the weapon pods. These will be a parts formation for the open and closed configuration. We also have a cap piece for the Zeus trigger handle while it's stowed, and we also have an open or stowed trigger handle for the barrel of the Zeus when it's in its flight or cannon mode. The last accessory to mention for the Zeus is the nose cone that is ejected while it's in cannon mode. The manual says you can use this and fly it separately for the model, but I'm pretty sure this is just disposed of in the film. The rest of the accessories are really the Zeus itself, so let's talk about that a little bit now. The Zeus is absolutely massive when it's in the flyer mode, and even bigger once combined with the Destiny Gundam itself. The combination here is technically a parts formation, and we'll cover that real quick. Starting with the Zeus in flyer mode, detach the 4 main parts from it. The nose cone, the torso armor on the bottom, the leg thrusters on the side, the barrel magazine, and the weapons pod. Attach the torso armor frame to the rear skirt, then attach the torso armor itself. This is easier to do with the arms out of the way. Attach the Zeus barrel magazine to the sword weapon holder, and attach the weapons pod to the rail cannon weapon holder. Both of these connect to the same arm pieces on the Zeus armor frame. Next, detach the feet from the Destiny and disassemble the leg thrusters. These leg thrusters slide into the polycap swivels in the leg. Attach the thruster armor over the legs and swing the wings downwards. You'll also need to attach the action base to the Destiny, as it won't be able to stand in this configuration. Lastly, swivel the barrel of the Zeus and add a barrel from the magazine. This swivel on the main body for the Zeus itself is a little tight, so move it carefully. You can then attach the Zeus to the subarm on the armor frame we attached to the back of the skirt of the Destiny. Attach the Destiny shield to the side and place the action base connector into the Zeus, and you should be all set. The Destiny has been fully parts formed with the Zeus at this point. Now, the articulation here once combined is definitely limited. The arms can do all the same stuff the Destiny was able to do, but the abdomen is pretty much locked in place thanks to the rear Zeus armor frame we added. The Zeus subarm that connects to the Zeus cannon is pretty decent. It has a high variety of swivels and joints within it. You should be able to pull off most holding poses with the Zeus and the Destiny that you would like or could think of. It is a little cumbersome to pose because you need to rely on the action base to hold the weight of the Zeus, as well as the Destiny to hold the Zeus while keeping it connected to the subarm. So there are a lot of variables here to contend with while posing the Zeus. Just take extra caution while posing it to ensure you don't break anything. The legs are able to pose a little bit, but the extra girth of the legs with the thruster armor attached does make it a little cumbersome. The legs can kick forward all the way 90 degrees, and it does surprisingly well holding this pose. The joints are quite strong on the Destiny itself to be able to hold all this extra weight. On the knee joint, you're only allowed a 90-degree downward bend because the rear thruster armor hits the thigh, preventing any further articulation. The leg is still able to kick out sideways for a split, but I'd be wary of putting all this added weight to the swivel in the thigh joint. However, it is possible. Just make sure you're careful. The thruster flaps on the feet are able to open and close, so there's a little bit of articulation there as well. The last little bit of articulation is the side missile pods on the legs that can open up, revealing missiles. This looks cool, but is a little difficult to open without fully taking the missile pod off the legs itself. There is a small little bit of articulation left, and that's on the weapon pod that connects to the rail cannon. The sensor can move up and down, and the missile pods on the back can swivel forward and backward. They also have flaps that can open, revealing missiles, which is a cool little gimmick. The posability of the Destiny mobile suit itself is fairly standard. It's a nice high-grade kit, and you're able to pull off a lot of poses that you can think of. The heavy backpack of the Destiny does make it a little harder to stand by itself, but you're still able to do this without a ridiculous amount of forward lean. Thankfully, the included stands with this kit, you can really pull off some nice action poses with the Destiny Gundam itself and really get full utilization of all the accessories it comes with. My only gripe with the Destiny is the polycap in the wrist. This is what makes the wrist swivel, as well as the connection for the hand. I think a polycap is a little too weak to handle the Destiny and its heavy payload. The anti-ship sword is quite heavy, and I had this pop out a lot while posing in both mobile suit mode and combined with the Zeus. The tight bends required of the Destiny to grab the Zeus handle can lead to a lot of poppage. Once the Destiny has been combined with the Zeus, you are a little bit limited with the poses you can pull off, simply because the leg articulation is a little scaled back in this mode from all that additional armor. If you raise the action base high with the weight of the Destiny fully on the base, you're also adding a lot of weight to the legs that are already going to get some additional stress just from the weight of the thrusters on the legs. I'd only pose the Destiny like this for a little bit and then lower the stand so the weight of the legs is evenly resting on the ground and all that stress isn't on the legs 24/7. If you have the Destiny in air for a long time, I imagine those joints are going to get pretty weak and loose. While the kit is raised though, you can have a lot of fun posing the Destiny into forward flying and assaulting type poses, as well as aiming and firing the Zeus cannon. I was skeptical at first about the two action base 7s being included. I thought that was a sort of way to cheap out, but it actually holds the weight of the Destiny and Zeus perfectly. It does a phenomenal job keeping the kit in its action poses and is extremely sturdy and strong. It even takes quite a bit of force to bend these arms on the Action Base 7, so I have no doubt in these stands' abilities to handle the Destiny and the Zeus in whatever configuration you decide to display it in. This kit is absolutely massive. It's rich with features and gimmicks and looks amazing once it's completed. Shin not only got his redemption arc in the Seed Freedom movie, but also here in model kit form as well. This is a great kit and has usurped the Black Knight Squad Calrea as my favorite release from Seed Freedom this year. This kit demands a massive shelf presence on your Siege shelf, really only being rivaled by the Destroy Gundam and the Meteor unit. Putting all these kits side by side, the Destiny Gundam Spec II with the Zeus does a fantastic job of catching your eye, as its bright colors and powerful poses make this a kit not to forget. This $80 kit is able to stand tall next to these other $100+ kits, and that's really saying something. The Destiny design may not be everyone's cup of tea, but Bandai really did a fantastic job bringing this design off screen and into your collection. The value for the price is fantastic, and I had an absolute blast putting this together. Really, the only issues I can think of with this kit is the weird wrist polycap, the long nub mark cleanup on the Zeus with the weird nubs, especially at the end of the Zeus barrel, and finding enough shelf space to fit it all. I am a little worried about the legs though. The weight of the Zeus leg thrusters will be a lot for the Destiny's polycap thruster connector to handle. This might be something we have to look out for as this kit gets older, but luckily this is a model kit and there are ways to tighten this up. I loved this kit and I solemnly swear that you will too. Who doesn't love a powerful mech with a giant gun? Thank you so much for tuning into this kit review of the Destiny Gundam Spec II and Zeus Silhouette. This was a highly anticipated kit for me this year, and I know it's high on a lot of people's lists as well. Getting this kit early wouldn't be possible without my subscribers. I appreciate each and every one of you very much. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions do so much to help the channel. I can't thank you all enough for the support. Until next time, this has been Joe's Gunpla Garage. Stay safe, have fun, and happy building.